very shortly. Please settle down. Request you to all please take a seat so that we can start the session immediately. We'd like to begin this session by first inviting on stage the chair for this session, Dr. A.K. Agarwal, who's the chairman for the National Council on Rail Transport at ASSOCHAM, India. May I request Dr. Agarwal to please come on the stage. Dr. Agarwal. May I next invite Dr. Lam Thang Ha, the Senior Lecturer, Faculty of International Economics, Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our third speaker at the session is Dr. Vidya Natampalli, who is a Senior Director of Strategy at Microsoft Research India. May I please request you to join us. The third speaker for today is Dr. Shrishti Pukhrem, who's a Senior Research Fellow at India Foundation. And the fourth and the final speaker at this session is Dr. Thien Nguyen, the Deputy Director General, Department of Archaeology and National Museum, Myanmar. May I now request Dr. Agarwal to please chair this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, galaxy of intellectuals, experts of this panel, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. It is really my privilege to chair this session. This is an interesting session on Indo-ASEAN connectivity. Why I say interesting? Because of three reasons. First, today we are celebrating Independence Day. Second, it's the festival in India, the great festival in India, dedicated to Lord Krishna. Third, because the panel experts are well known in this field, they are of international repute. In the beginning, let me confirm, let me vouch that collective vision of the experts over here on the dais is much more than my knowledge. And combined intellect of you all sitting as audience is much, much more than the knowledge of the panel as a whole. Renowned four experts of this panel are going to offer their views on the connectivity between India and ASEAN. The methodology we will follow, that the panelists to make their first argument for 7-8 minutes individually, if you agree, and then overall discussion. I would like that each one should ask the question. And then in the end, you or I can expect a pointed question from the expert as a concluding remark. And would I also like to mention here that immediately after this session, we are going to have a very good and well-connected tea break. Don't forget, tea break is important. So I request you, all of you, not to forget connectivity. I will connect you very well. Now I take your liberty to set the tone of the subject. Over the past quarter century, the world has completely changed. Now, our planet is motherland of more than 7 billion people, out of which, on an average, 25% is young generation. This ratio is adequately correct in ASEAN nations and is upwardly twisted in India. In a globalized world, national policies of ASEAN and India should be towards human development. Why we are discussing today this connectivity subject? Because of human development. That is the ultimate objective. As per 2030 agenda of the United Nations for Sustainable Development, which ASEAN nations and India are extensively following, no one has to be left underprivileged. Everyone has to be up. Under this backdrop, there are 5 P's: planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnership. First, planet. We have to keep our planet safe and protected and keep it connected. People should not feel isolated and suffocated on this planet. Number 2, people. We have to ensure the dignity and equality of the people and give them connectivity to meet each other on a regional, in this case ASEAN and India, and global platform without any hindrance. I again repeating, without any hindrance. 3, prosperity. We have to ensure prosperity for all this can be done by smooth and low-cost connectivity. We need low-cost connectivity between ASEAN and India. 4th, peace. We have to create an environment that people talk about peace rather than engaging themselves in terrorism or any other kind of violence. This is possible if the people are busy, well connected, well employed, and are with a spiritual mind. ASEAN nations and India have one cultural aspect which is common, that is spiritualism. This is common. So we have to exploit this common factor, but without connectivity, we cannot exploit. We have to be smoothly and on low-cost basis connected. 5th is partnership. People have to think that this whole world or this motherland belongs to them. And hence, a legitimate win-win kind of partnership to be forged within the conceptual framework of flexibility. This kind of partnership is only possible if we have a stress-free and purposeful connectivity in place. While I say stress-free, it means if I had to go from here tomorrow from Bhopal to Vietnam, I should not think twice. This is stress-free. I just give you an example. With the second slide, we have direct non-stop air connections in good numbers to Europe and America. We should have, of course, we should have direct connections to these countries. But somehow we do not have with ASEAN nations. What for we are waiting? Of course, we should have robust road, rail, water linkages, but seamless air connectivity we can start tomorrow. I will sum up in the end of the session. Now I request Dr. Long, you. So first you can speak for 7-8 minutes. You want to speak from there or you can come here. It is up to you. I think this is more safer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lam Thanh Ha. I'm come from Vietnam. It is my very pleasure to be here to share some of my knowledge about Indian and ASEAN connectivities. It's just my personal views about ASEAN and Indian connectivity. So, if you there have any idea, maybe I can learn from you. Talk about the connectivity. We talk about there are people talk about the 3 dimensions about connectivity, like shop connectivity, physical connectivity, and people-to-people connectivities. But in this my presentation, maybe I just talk about the shop connectivities because in my views, I think it's the most important things in the connectivities. India and ASEAN are the home of 1.90 billion people and have an economic size of 5.16 trillion US dollars. Since early 19, the economic relationships between ASEAN and India have improved significantly. In the 2000s, trade volume between ASEAN and India was just 7.1 billion US dollar, but the number was risen extraordinarily to 67.7 billion by 2016. This is a very huge number, isn't it? But potential between our 2 economies unexplored fully. So what is elements that stand between us? There are some difficult from geographies, the lacking of finance, the underdeveloped land borders, custom station, the mixing railway network. But we together do try to fix this. Many physical connectivities have been developed, especially like in transport. We have the Mekong Indian Economic Corridors, the Indian Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, and which was extended to Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam in 2016. The Reed-Tittim Phalem Road in the maritime traffic, we have Calendar's multi-modal transport project. And with the railway, we have Delhi's Hanoi Railways link. In the air transport, from 2009, there are many agreements were signed between ASEAN and Indians on air service and air freight, but I think from many ASEAN countries, we still don't have a straight flight to India like Vietnam. When I reached here, I have transit from Vietnam to Bangkok and Bangkok to Delhi. Yeah, so I wish and I hope in the very soon next time we have straight flight that we can fly from Hanoi straight to Delhi or from Ho Chi Minh straight to Mumbai. I think it's better. And my colleagues from Vietnam, they just have more difficult transits. They fly from Hanoi to Myanmar, Kuala Lumpur, Myanmar, and from Kuala Lumpur transit to Delhi. And I think it's better if we have a straight flight here. And talk about the shop's connectivity, I think pupil to pupil is very important things. To foster ASEAN and India relationship, ASEAN and India maintains to organize many programs that have been ongoing annually, namely like ASEAN-India student exchange programs, special course for ASEAN diplomats, the daily dialogue, as well as ASEAN-India media exchange programs, ASEAN-India joint farmer exchange program, and we hear today's ASEAN-India joint summit I think is one of the activity to enhance pupil-to-pupil connectivities. But in here, how many people in the India know about the ASEAN? I think not much. And the same in our ASEAN, how many people in the ASEAN knows about the Indian? I think not much too. So pupil and to pupil connectivity, I think we need to do more to let people know about us, about our relationships. Although I think there are lots of difficulties to boost our connectivities developed properly, we need to do more like investing finance, strengthening institutional cooperations, utilizing existing infrastructure, so on. But I do believe that we have a common destiny. We share the values. Together we can do it, and together I think everything is possible. I want to say thank you for Indian Foundation and thank you for Ministry External Affairs give us a chance to be here together. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lom. Interesting arguments. She raised about the 3 dimensions of connectivity. 67 billion turnover today between ASEAN and India. I think in national government, we have already made an agenda that by 2022, it has to be tripled. India, Myanmar, Thailand link, she has raised the point, people-to-people contact. She raised another important issue that not so many people in India, they about ASEAN. So I request Ram Madhavji, maybe this kind of activity should be organized more frequently, may not be only in India, but in other countries also, in ASEAN nations. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Sirsti.
Good afternoon all. Today, what I'm going to focus is a very brief presentation about India-ASEAN connectivity. When we are talking about India-ASEAN connectivity, here I'm not just saying about physical connectivity, as my previous speaker also talked about different aspects of connectivity. Here, I'm mainly going to bring down connectivity as part of the 3 C's approach of our present government with the ACIS policy. The 3 C's are commerce, culture, and connectivity. India and ASEAN, as we all know, we are in the 25 years of dialogue partnership for which we are having this commemorative summit. As a part of it, our much linkages are not just about diplomatic relations or about security and strategy. We go back much, I mean, years back, I would say, more of ancient and civilizational linkages. So in the 3 C's, when we talk about ancient and civilizational linkages, we have to see in the aspect of culture. Culture is, in fact, a very, I mean, sharp, I would say, a very proactive approach to build ties between 2 regions. When we are talking about ties, it's not about just defense or security ties. Culture is a soft power tool, which we can engage through soft diplomacy. And here we can bring in the aspect of India's culture, which is very rich. And just to, I mean, bring down to much more minor things within it, like the yoga. Yoga is very popular, which is, I mean, can be brought into the soft power aspect of it. Films, then we have tourism, people-to-people contact. Everyone has been talking about people-to-people contact, but how far have we reached? How far have we been able to establish links between people of these 2 regions? When we are looking into ASEAN, we're looking into one unit, which is comprising of 10 countries. And these 10 countries are not one homogeneous unit. So when we are approaching, when we have India's approach towards ASEAN, we have to bring into the perspective of all the 10 countries. And in that, in fact, culture, linkages. There are many countries with different religion, with different cultures, but we can have ancient ties rebuilding it again, like the Ramayana, which I'm talking about in the soft power, like Ramakien in Thailand. So we have a lot of, you know, similarities. And it's not about just bringing together the similarities. We should celebrate differences also. In that, that's how we bring in culture and connectivity into soft power. Coming into another aspect of C's, when I talk about connectivity, here it's not about broad theme of connectivity. In connectivity, we have like physical, that's what I said. So let's just look into one aspect of it, as we don't have much time in hand. We talk about roads. When we have roads, better linkages and better infrastructure, then much easier movement of not just goods, not just services, not just about hard economy, not just about trade. We have to look beyond people movement, which itself will be a very vital factor to develop the ties between India and ASEAN. A very interesting factor, I would tell you, some of my ASEAN friends, and in fact from India too, might not be aware that we share a very close border with our ASEAN neighbors, which Myanmar is a very important neighbor of India, and we share a very long borderline with the northeastern part of India. In that, very important projects are being taken up by our government, which is the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, which is about 1,360 kilometers. In that, there are 2 aspects of this. In India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, what we project is about connecting. There is a small town called More in Manipur. Manipur is in the northeastern part of India. So we connect Manipur through Mysore. Then the entire connectivity in this trilateral highway is through Kalemyo and Kalewa, and it goes till Mysore in Thailand. So this, I mean, the India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway is a very good physical infrastructure, which is under construction, and it's not about building new roads. It's about, developing the existing roads, and in fact, that can be a very great factor. Then, in fact, earlier in our keynote address, our Secretary has also mentioned about the KMTTP, that is the Kaladan Multimodal Transit Transport Project, which is a very important part of India's approach towards Southeast Asia. So when we see and study India and ASEAN, one aspect we should always remember is that ASEAN is a regional organization, and Southeast Asia is again another part of it. So when we see Southeast Asia, when we look into the cultural and the civilizational aspects of it, it's very important that we know the region, we understand each and every part of the country. Like the ASEAN as a regional grouping, then different from ASEAN will be Southeast Asia as another, a different group of it. Why we say that? Because India and Southeast Asia, it's one of the most watched regions in the present context in today's age. India and Southeast Asia, they are both known for its culture as well as about economic progress. So when we have this similarity, why aren't we bringing it together? We are making a lot of effort. We are striving towards economic cooperation. We are, furthering defense and security ties. But we should look beyond is that India shares a lot of borders, not just about road borders, but about maritime borders. And it's through the ocean space of the Bay of Bengal and the Andaman Sea. And we have a very new concept of Indo-Pacific, which brings together not just about India and Southeast Asia, but about the extended neighborhood, which is currently our Prime Minister's approach of Act East policy. How it has evolved from Look East to Act East is that Look East has been there since 1991 after the economic liberalization, but there has not been much progress in Look East policy. So in Naypyidaw 2014 November, Prime Minister participated in the East Asia Summit where we had flagged that now Look East, it's time to act East. And Prime Minister has specifically mentioned about not just building up ties with the ASEAN region, but also furthering ties with ASEAN as well as the extended neighborhood that is Japan, China, South Korea. We have a very interesting factor when we bring in the source of connectivity that is about Buddhism, which we can never turn a blind eye to it. That itself is a soft power, which we have to nurture it. It's not that there has been linkages, there has been about ancient, there has been privilege in many years before, but we have to keep that alive. We have to nurture it, and we have to bring that and on the platform and all of us in one forum and work together and take it forward. I can say that, it's not just of a personal opinion, but it's more of the environment which we are in right now. We can't say that we have a unipolar world or we just have one super dominant power. It's a multipolar world right now, and in today's age, with so much of technology and so much of IT and digital and about everyone being, I would say, I would use the word that they are no longer technologically challenged. They're very much, in the current strife of the pace of economic development as well as technology. So why not we utilize this, what we have in our hands. We as the youth of today, as we are gathered together for Youth Summit, why not we come together and then we utilize this, because we are the future generations of both India and ASEAN. So let's take this forward and build further the ties, and in that we can look upon India and ASEAN as further developing the ties and making it into a more vibrant region and come as one in unanimous and say ASEAN +1. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Srishti. She has raised a very important point regarding culture. In fact, for any economic integration, you need something prerequisite. I think cultural bond is the prerequisite for economic integration. Now I request Dr. Lewin to apprise his viewpoint.
Can I get? For the next space. Minglawa, auspicious to all our participants and from the Indian Foundation. So my presentation is a Indian and Myanmar connectivity in culture. So now where the PowerPoint? Okay. Okay. Now, Myanmar is the very closest neighboring country of the Myanmar on the eastern flank, sharing approximately 1,620 kilometers of the border to each other. And India and Myanmar has been enjoying the mutual contact in the fields of trade, commerce, religious, culture, and historic periods of time. It was Buddhism which entrusted initial ancient tie or bond between two countries. What? Yeah. India has a long historical relationship with Myanmar since antiquity, cultural exchange, including Buddhism and Myanmar script, which were based off the Indian Burmese script. In particular, Theravada Buddhism has translated influenced Burmese society and culture for millennia, with 90% continue to follow the religious on this day. Not coming. The culture of Myanmar has enriched by hard contact with India. The origin of the cultural relation of the both nations can be traced back to King Asoka. The two Arhat, Sonat and Uttara, mission to Suvarnabhumi in 241 BC before Christ, sent by that after the third Buddhist council of the Patliputra. The similarly, Kadamba script and the Pew script of the 5th century AD, Buddhist remains excavated around the old Pye and began confirm existence of the Mahayana, Theravada, Brahmanica influence in art and architecture of those days. Influence of the Buddhist Tipitaka and of Vedic treatises on literature of Myanmar point off to the extent cultural relation between India and Burma. Historically, Bengal, especially southeastern Bengal, Bangladesh has been various aspects of this Asian important trait of the cultural linkage with the Myanmar. Southeastern Bengal comprised basically of the kingdom of the Samartatat and Harikirat in the early medieval period. Samartatat and Harikirat represent the present territory of the Noakhali, Kovila, and Chittagong in Bangladesh and Tripura in India. So I would like to close my presentation. This relation with South Asia and Myanmar, that in the Asian maritime, southern India to northern India connect to Myanmar by land, and southern India connect to maritime road to Myanmar and to ASEAN country. Indian relation overseas can be generally ascribed the invasion of the Kushan into India in the 1st century AD, seeking fortune overseas by high caste and Indian adventure. Beginning of the north, there was a famous fort of Taradlipati Taluk in Madhepur district, Bengal. From this port, there was a regular sailing vessel which proceeds along the coast of Bengal and Myanmar. There were other similar embarkations, one of Palura near Kolhapura in Orissa, 3 near Madras, from which ships sail across the Bay of Bengal to far east. Here, in our Myanmar country, firstly, we found that stone implement and stone instrument in the northwest of our country. This means Nagaland and Chin State, we found a lot of stone implement. This related to India stone implement, say by Mr. Saka. That's why India and Myanmar are very connected to maybe 3 million years ago. That's firstly we connected to each other, and then after the Stone Age, Neolithic Stone Age, we can trace that Pew civilization in our country. Pew civilization belong to 100 BC to 100 BC to 1000 AD. Is very prominent civilization in our country. In Pew civilization, we had three Pew cities are very prominent. These are Hanlin, Paitano, and Sri Khedra. This is Paitano. This is Paitano city. During the excavation of Paitano city, the name also very related to India. We call Vishnu city. In my Myanmar name, we call Paitano. This Paitano is a god of the Hindu Trinity. Here there's a Paitano city, the square shape of the city. 1962, we started our excavation in Paitano. Here we found like this stupa and monastery. And then there's a stupa shape is very related to Nagarjuna Konda in Amaravati at Andhra Pradesh, means South Indian. Here we found like this stupa and monastery. That's monastery. Inside that monastery, I found that that monastery say look like this stupa in India. That sea we found contain the Sangathiri ceiling. These are related to India, and in southern India we found like this ceiling. Here also another excavation. We found like the monastery, and then sometimes we found like this Buddha image appears in the excavation of the Paitano. Yeah, there's Buddha image. We found the excavation site number 3. This monastery road and sitting position also very close to Gupta period in India. Yeah, see, that Gupta period, 5th century AD in India. There's in my country, we can give the date of the Buddha is a 6th or 7th century AD. That's also related to Thailand. Thailand also we found like this Buddha image in Gupta style. Yeah, there also another excavation. We found this stupa, very related to Amaravati and Nagarjuna Konda. That's why Nagarjuna Konda and Amaravati, that Buddha mission came to Myanmar, and they found that Buddhism in our country, 1st century AD to 9th century AD in Pew period. Yeah, we found the barrier end, like this barrier end, decorated barrier end. Here we found another monastery. Also, that monastery type also very related to Nagarjuna Konda style. Okay. So, not coming. This also very related to Nagarjuna Konda style. Not coming. Yeah, that monastery complex of the Pew period. Sometimes we found like this gold Pali manuscript, gold leaf. That also we use the Kadamba script in South India, Kadamba script. Yeah, sometimes we found like this Brahmin Trinity. Yeah. We found a lot of variant here. You can see the Kadamba script used the Pew people from the southern India. That's also some symbolism quite related to southern India, like Nagarjuna Konda. Yeah, hero stone also we found in Sri Khedra, like southern India hero stone. Another after this period, Gupta and Pala art are very important to the Pew civilization. Here, another one, Pala Senat is very related to Bagan period. Bagan period is another civilization. Bagan empire found in 11th century to 13th century AD. Here. Problem. This is our Bagan. Bagan is located in central Myanmar. Here. Here. These are all monuments belong to 11th century to 13th century. All are Buddhist monuments. Only one Hindu temple appeared inside the city. This is for to pray the all Brahmin what they are work in king of the Bagan. Here, there's a different type of the stupa and temple of the 11th to 13th century. Here, there's a Pala period stone carving. Okay, the stone carving, they're related to Myanmar country. It's not fast. Problem is not fast. Okay, I would conclude that. That's also related to our Bagan periods, Palas. So that's why India and Myanmar are very related to Asian type, 1st century AD to 30th century. Two different periods. And in early civilization is very close to Gupta period, and then Bagan period is a very close to Pala period. So I would like to conclude. Yeah. In our view, maintain the peace and tranquility, cultural exchange and cooperation of the vital importance. More adaptation of international convention and participation in cultural events, similar workshop and conference have made more harmony with our other countries, inspired to understand and respect each other's culture and to have more peaceful coexistence. They also allow to communicate and cooperate with each other and overcome exchange of their present. Therefore, we need to promote cultural exchange and cultural cooperation in all cultural fields between Indian and ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewin. A lot of ideas he is having, but maybe because of paucity of time, we cannot cover. Now I request Dr. Vidya. I think you have to compensate. You have to compensate.
So I'll be quick. I'm going to cover, so far the previous speakers actually talked about the physical connectivity, the cultural connectivity, the religious part, and the heritage part. I'm actually going to talk about the IT and digital connectivity. I would say possibly we can connect all these using IT and digital connectivity, either virtually or physically. There are so many opportunities if we have the digital connectivity. India being the IT leader at a worldwide level and also in the region, we've already showcased our capacity to build both software, hardware, and various other tools and technologies. Obviously, the next thing is making digital connectivity a reality across the country. Our Prime Minister has recently made a statement where connectivity is like, having schools, which is a basic need for any citizen. I would say that it's almost like having roads, right? For people to travel around, we need connectivity. Most common things which people are aware of are Wi-Fi, mobile phone, and in the office we use fixed lines and things like that. But if you look at the larger part of it, for infrastructure, I'm going to divide this into infrastructure, tools, technology, and services. For infrastructure, governments will play a very critical role. India has already taken significant steps. It's launched GSAT-9 as a satellite for SAARC countries. SAARC stands for South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. That's our immediate neighboring countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and a couple of other countries. We're exclusively providing this particular satellite for connectivity. Likewise, the government has very ambitious plans to have the fiber network across the country. connecting all the gram panchayats. There are about 250,000 gram panchayats and 600,000 villages. So the country is focusing on getting the connectivity as soon as possible so that all the offerings that we want to make, whether it is government's various programs or various, healthcare or education or whatever, we need to make that available through connectivity, right? So it's not just enough to make, provide digital connectivity. You need the tools and technologies. So we need to work on the tools and technologies as well simultaneously while we are working on digital connectivity for the country. While we do that, we also have to focus on services. When I say services, let's look at agriculture. I think in one of the group discussions, I already talked about it. IoT for agriculture, when we say IoT, there are multiple devices connected to internet. How do they talk to each other and actually benefit the end user? If you look at agriculture, there are multiple levels of sensors. The ground sensor, the soil sensor, which determines whether the soil is wet or when do we need to water it. Then you have sensors and cameras on the vehicles that you use, possibly tractors or whatever, to understand what kind of crop is going, what kind of pests are there, etc. Then you have FluxNet data, various things. Then you have the satellite meteorological data. How do you combine all these and make it available to the farmer to have what's called precision farming? That means the farmer knows exactly when he should water his fields or when he should actually go to the market and sell his products because you're providing a platform for the market as well. Then are you selling it to the right market where you're getting better prices? All these needs to be done through connectivity. The other example is healthcare. Healthcare is also becoming more and more important. Remote management, remote diagnosis with lots of people around and traffic jams and various things. How do you manage that? Connectivity, tools, technologies will play a very important role. And India has already demonstrated many things, both in IoT for agriculture as well as healthcare. I was also mentioning the ICU care at home, which has been launched by one of the hospitals in Bangalore. And also there is education. One of the country representatives was asking me, we need to build our skill sets faster because we are not ready to develop these things on our own. How can India help you in those things? Right? We can actually help you in any kind of services which we have already worked on. We have infrastructure in place, the satellites and the fiber network. And also we work with various, provide opportunities for companies to come and, offer their services, like Google is offering RailTel network. That is, they're offering wireless services in railway stations. Facebook is offering services called Express Wi-Fi, and they also have something called drone-based services. And there's something called TV White Spaces, which is offered by Microsoft, where the TV spectrum, unused TV spectrum, is used for providing connectivity. So broadly, I would say we have what's called infrastructure. Then we have to build tools and technologies that support the services part of it. So India is already there. It'll help the region if we all work together. The security issues can be addressed. The border issues can be addressed. Environmental issues like flood affecting one region can affect another country. How can we address all these? The emergency response can be addressed. Pandemics, endemics can be addressed, which can be isolated and handled better. So I would say even for all the topics that our colleagues talked here about, heritage or religious connections and various things, we can create online heritage corridors or virtual heritage centers, and various opportunities are there. So connectivity will play a very important role, both IT and digital connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. Thank you. Thank you very much. She said that the technology holds the key for connectivity. Now, the floor is yours, audience. Last benchers first. Don't sleep. Tea is waiting. So now the question answer. Nobody is asking the question, then there will be a competition between the countries. So let's first from Thailand. Thailand. Yes, yes, please, yes. Give the mic.
Hi, my name is Iqbal. I'm not from Thailand. I'm from Indonesia. I'm really curious about the connectivity between India and Asian. But I'm wondering about this. So we're talking about the connectivity between all of our countries. And if we talk a lot about it, I personally think this connectivity might have relevant with the government. I mean, it's all about policy and how our leaders connects us all. But I'm wondering, what do you think, all of the speakers and the stage, what do you think us youth here, without waiting for our leaders to make a policy that connects us all, what do you think we can do directly?
Dr. Sisti, please.
Yeah. On a lighter note, first as youths, I think we should start mingling with everyone here. Let's break up our country groups and get to know each other better. That's first to get connected, and let's, take on first from this youth summit onwards. On another note about youths playing a role in connectivity, I would say that youths have a very large responsibility, and we have to take it forward from our previous, our government as well as our practitioners at the moment, because we are the future practitioners and we are the future policy makers of our country. So let's engage ourselves better. Let's, read more about it, not just read. Let's practice what we read, and let's put into more into ground efforts. So I would say that the first initiative, it just came into my mind, like when we are talking about right now sitting at this summit, what we can come out of it is that we are having lots of panel discussions and group discussions. On this, you have on topics of IT, you have topics of innovation, you have about UN SDGs, then you have about polity and governance. It will be very helpful if all of us, the youth, the participants of the different countries out here, including India, all of us could contribute and come up with some output after this summit on the various topics which we have covered during this summit. So that will be our first contribution towards building up and, strengthening our ties. Mainly we start with that, then we can think of the next step forward. Let's take one step and let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Next question. Yes, please. And next should be ready. Already next should be in the queue. I think you can ask the question. Yes. Okay, first, yes.
This is Tinsa Shirley from Myanmar. I just want to give a comment add to your presentations that we see the ASEAN's and the regional future as ours. We belong to that. So when we talk about the connectivity, we have physical, economical, as well as we shouldn't forget about human-to-human connectivities, as well as we need to make sure as a regional ensuring human rights applying in every, human dignity, human rights also apply in every other, all of our countries as well. Human security, human rights. That's my comments. Thank you.
Dr. Lam, you can respond. Okay, Dr. Lin. Come on. Dr. Vidya.
I would say that, you were talking about physical connectivity and, interpersonal relationships and things like that. Technology is a bone and bane both. It can help connect with people, but there are issues. But anything you start new, there are issues that needs to be resolved. But that doesn't mean that we should not start anything. We should keep making efforts to connect more and more and, have interesting ideas exchanged.
Next, yes, please.
Akansha, my name is Akansha. What I actually want to say that, like you said, that with IT we are connecting on different fields. For healthcare also, if we share the scientific data on healthcare domain, because we all are connected, our gene pool is quite similar. So disease patterns and the patient history is also quite similar. So if we share the scientific data on the healthcare domain, it will be, I guess, way forward for some solutions.
Yeah, it'll go back to the point he raised. Policy is an issue because privacy is an issue, especially the sharing the gene details and health details. There are a lot of things that needs to be worked on.
Ma'am, actually I wanted to say that the research data, not the patient or the gene pool samples, but the research histories and scientific history on the research domain.
Yeah, that
can be shared, so that can result into some better research studies.
Yeah, that can be done.
Yes, next. Yeah.
From here.
And then be ready this Philippines table. Next.
I do first for him. Please from here. My name is Kumkon. I'm from Cambodia. That the enthusiasm, that the interesting that we want to connect from one region to another, but to me there's a lot of challenge for India. I mean, let's say for two things. Not just India, but others, big country also very interested in Southeast Asia. And taking, for example, like China, and they have their project for connectivity, especially for the physical connectivity. So one thing how India can compete with China in order to gain the benefit and advantage in the framework cooperation in this connectivity with Southeast Asia. This is one great concern. Second, even though it is a mutual benefit between the small country in Southeast Asia with India, but maybe some country in Southeast Asia, they don't have money to invest in infrastructure, for example. So that's why maybe they need money, they need loan from India to invest those infrastructures in their country, like what BRIC country have, infrastructure bank, for example. So the question for that kinds of aspect, how India address these tools of the great concern, the competition on connectivity from the other big country in Asia, and second thing, whether you prepare to have such kinds of infrastructure bank that can lend or loan money to a small country to do connectivity physically, like building road and bridge, for example. Thank you.
Let me tell you, this competition will always remain. Liberal investment allowance is one idea, where investment allowance is given by, let's say, India for the companies who invest in ASEAN countries and vice versa. This may be one of the solutions which you are talking about, the competition with China and so. I don't know about what China is doing, but this is just a proposal. Next question, please. Yes.
Hi, this is Abhinav from India. I want to ask a very basic question that despite so many decades which have passed since the post-colonial history, what are the challenges and why we have not been able to build up this connectivity between the two regions? Is it just geography, or it's lack of political will, or it's whatever? So what are the challenges and why we have failed so far to build a connectivity?
I think I cannot say failure or success. Let me tell you, the line between failure and success is very paper thin line. So maybe a timing. If you see the last 10 years or so, there was some kind of policy. Now it's a different policy. If you see the government of India today, they took action. East means action-oriented policy. So I think you will see the visibility, you will see the visible impact of this policy. Next. Now I can sum up if you want, if you agree. Yes, one question. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
My name is Arvind Damani. I'm from Nagaland, India. My question is, there are houses in the border of Nagaland-Myanmar border whose kitchen is in India and the bedroom is in Myanmar. This is how closely we are related to the Asian nations. Yet we are not able to use it to the cultural advantage which we have. I'd like to have your comment on it.
There are so many issues. What you said, it's not only one factor or two factors. So it's a complex issue. Let me tell you, connectivity is a complex issue. Always a complex issue between the nations, where the boundary is demarcated. Now, let me sum up what we have said, what the experts said. But before summing up, I ask one pointed questions with every expert. One statement only. What is the best solution you think for connectivity? Dr. Lewin.
The best connectivity is India and Myanmar is now conservation of the Ananda Temple in Bagan. Now, Archaeological Survey of India last 5 years ago came to Bagan and conduct the conservation of the Ananda Temple, the 11th century temple. We use, I think, 15 crore rupee used for the conservation of the monument. So now we have a lot of other connectivity, but I know and only cultural said that.
In my presentation, I will talk about the connectivity like physical and people-to-people connectivity. And as I mentioned, I think the most important, many experts here talk about many connectivity like transport, IT, technology, cultures. But the most important things I still think that is transport is most important things, connectivity is, and people to people is too. And the two key strategy in the connectivity I think we should push is physical like transport and people to people connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Collaborative and shared connectivity can solve many regional problems, and also sharing best practices can help you leapfrog.
I just want to make one comment regarding about our friend from Cambodia had said about the area of competition. So I would like all of us to explore that where there is competition, there's always space for cooperation also. So why not we look into those aspects of cooperation instead of just dwelling on, the areas of competition. Competition is always going to be there, both for India and China and various other countries. It's not just between India and China. We're also, even ASEAN countries, among the countries themselves. There's a lot of, disparity between the countries. But we should also explore spaces of cooperation where all of us could come together and provide a common platform. That's where the real connectivity can be highlighted.
Thank you. Now, yes.
And my addition that just mentions about the China's and Indians with the ASEANs. I think that competition will make our improvement. China is delayed One Belt One Road projects, and now Indian and Asia also delay many projects too. So we do believe that ASEAN and Indian will make much more, I think, develops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, let me try to sum up with my inputs in between. I will not mix up so much, but I have to put some input. I believe that connectivity is an important issue. What we can think of a connectivity fund between ASEAN and India. A connectivity fund will give the sufficient funds for the physical connectivity. Second, maybe we may think of a joint governing board to set up between India and ASEAN for connectivity, bilateral or multilateral, whichever is faster and feasible. Third, we discussed about Buddhism, we discussed about cultural heritage. We can think of spiritual tourism. I think all these countries are quite spiritual. We follow the same culture. Let it be spiritual tourism. Fourth, you said about people-to-people contact, but we are forgetting one thing, that all these countries are largely the agricultural countries. Why don't we think to connect the farmers of each countries and we raise the income of the farmers? We may think of to open some agriculture universities in some countries, maybe with the aid of India or a joint university, agriculture university. And of course, the frequent exhibitions and trade shows have to be held in the member nations. Next, maybe we form an Indo-CO forum. Maybe existing already, but we can revitalize. Then liberal investment, someone was asking about the infrastructure, the competition with some other countries. Competition will always be there. We have to find out a way out that on short term, how the investment can be there from India or vice versa. We can think of liberal investment allowance. Then people-to-people contact means we have to think of the underprivileged also, not the rich people. So there should be some connectivity, maybe non-stop flights to these countries and low-cost airlines. Of course, road, rail and water, these are the areas, but takes a longer time. People talked about that we are discussing this trilateral highway. There is some progress, but air connectivity, low-cost air connectivity, maybe we can think of waiving the taxes initially for 3 to 5 years' time. Then easing visa norms to these countries, maybe like in the form of Schengen visa, that if we apply for Thailand, then this is applicable for all the countries, 10 countries, or vice versa. Then we may think of as SME fund, a small medium enterprises fund, because SME is the backbone of all the countries. And if there is SME fund, combined fund, from where the small scale sector can borrow the fund without collateral. Sometimes I call it a collateral terrorism. Means the bank should not be after only collateral, they should see the project viability also. So these were my point of view, and one can add more and we can discuss more during the tea time. I think tea is waiting for you and we will well interconnect there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. Before we end this session formally, may I request the chair, Dr. Agarwal, to please present a token of our appreciation to all the speakers. May I first request Dr. Agarwal to present a token of our appreciation to Dr. Lam from Vietnam. May I now request Dr. Agarwal to present a token of our appreciation to Dr. Vidya Nadampalli. May I now request Dr. Agarwal to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Shrishti Pukhrem from India Foundation. And finally, may I request Dr. Agarwal to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Thien Nguyen from Myanmar. We break for tea now and reconvene for the second parallel discussions, which is the last formal session for today. Yes, all the groups will reconvene in the same room for which you reconvened for the first parallel discussion, which means that in the Darbal Hall, which is this room, groups 7 and 8 will reconvene again for a discussion on the topic United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Dr. Rene Van Berkel from the United Nations will chair this discussion. In Begum Hall 1, which is to the left of the Darbar Hall, groups 5 and 6 will reconvene for a discussion on digital and IT connectivity, where Dr. Vidya Nathampalli will chair the discussion. In the Begum Lawns, which is behind Begum Hall, groups 3 and 4 will reconvene again for a discussion on innovation and entrepreneurship. Shri Saket Mishra will chair this discussion. And in Begum Hall 2, groups 1 and 2 will reconvene for a discussion on polity and governance. And Shri Ram Madhav will chair this discussion. Yes. Before we end, may I request Major General Dhruv Katoch, who is the Director, India Foundation, to please present a token of our appreciation to the chair. Please note that after the parallel group discussions are over, we will have the ASEAN Food Festival at the same location where we have our lunches. This is in the Begum Hall and the porch behind it. This will start from 7 p.m. today. Tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., we have optional visits to Van Vihar for a nature walk and a cruise on the Bhopal Lake. This will start at 7:30 a.m. So in case you are interested, please join us at the porch, at the lobby of the hotel. There will be buses to take you to both these locations. Thank you. Please join us for tea now.